All right, today's video, we're gonna make a yellow brick cutting board. Follow along for a wicked good time. All right, to make our yellow brick cutting board, we're gonna use two different species of wood. For the brick, we're gonna use this gorgeous piece of Yellowheart. Now, I've never used Yellowheart in any of my projects before, so this is gonna be very exciting. Hopefully it plays just as nice as Purple Heart, because I've used that a lot. Even my hammer here is made out of Purple Heart, so hopefully it plays just as nice. And then for the mortar, or for between the brick, we're gonna use this piece of Wenge. I've never used this either, but what an awesome, really dark, vibrant wood. So the contrast when we're done should look magical. So the first thing we gotta do, double check all of our measurements. We'll go to the table saw and we'll get ripping. All right, now we've got all of the Yellowheart cut. We've got the Wenge cut for the most part. Now, did I do this most efficiently? No. So in the past, when I would do a brick cutting board, I would do like a run of bricks, butt it up against a run of whatever the supporting material is, then cut it down, and then move it around. I didn't do that here. I did it brick by brick, which is kind of cool because then I can alternate the grain, but the glue up's gonna be tricky. So what you saw me do, I've got the bricks cut, so I've got 4 inches by 1.5 inches by 4/4 thick. And then I had to cut these little bitty pieces of Wenge. So I had to cut these 1.5 inches wide. And that's to match the brick. And if you guys never seen the cross section or the edge grain on Wenge, it's beautiful. It kind of reminds me of Tigerwood a little bit. I may do a close-up so you guys can see it. So now we're gonna have to glue up each one of these runs. So I'm gonna do a run of bricks with the Wenge in between it, along with a long piece of Wenge. So yeah, let's get gluing. All right, now we've got the main components cut. We can go ahead and mock up what the cutting board is going to look like. So if we take each one of these pieces and we overlap them or overlap the seams, you'll see that we start forming a brick pattern. So typically you would see this on a brick wall, or in our case, a brick road. So this looks pretty cool. the contrast of the woods looks phenomenal. And this Yellowheart is really interesting. It's got a lot of orange and a little bit of red in the grains. So I cannot wait to see this thing finished to see what kind of colors come out of it. Okay, so for the next step, we've got to clean up before we do our main glue up. So this will be the final glue up that we're gonna do. However, I used a ton of glue, ton of that Type Bond 3, just to make sure this thing is gonna be rock solid. So we're gonna have to sand every one of these runners or individual pieces on the front side, as well as the runner, the Wenge runner. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take as much of the glue out off as possible, but I'm not gonna address the top yet. We're gonna address that all at once it's glued together. We can run it through the planer, and since it's not in grain, it should just gradually work our way down until we're solid. Because, you know, just like you may have seen at the very beginning of the video, even though both of the wood, the Wenge and the Yellowheart, are 4/4, they're not exactly the same height. So we're gonna have to work on that through the planer. So let's go ahead and get this stuff cleaned up, and then we'll start the big glue up. All right, now we can start gluing. And just a reminder, the Wenge is very porous, so we're gonna use a lot of wood because we know it's gonna get soaked in quite a bit. I'm kind of running my hand along the back just to make sure. Uh-oh, is that what it's gonna look like when it has finished? Pretty yellow. Ooh, doggy. All right, I'm just gonna clean up the squeeze out a little bit more before we start clamping fully. Just because I'm gonna put some cawls on. All right, now it's been a little more than 24 hours. We're gonna go ahead and unclamp our cutting board. All right, now we've got a cutting board all completed. We've got it glued up. Now what we have to do is resize it. So we're gonna take it to the table saw. We'll cut off each side. And then if you can see on this side versus this one, this has a Wenge runner. We're gonna go ahead and trim that off. I want it all the way around with no borders. So we'll head to table saw, we'll get that done, and then we can put this thing through the planer. Actually, I may take a little bit of this glue off first, just so I don't gum up my blades, and then we'll take it to the planer and start to see what we got. Let's go. All right, then what a difference. There's little bitty pieces that the Yellowheart makes versus the really long shards that the Wenge makes. What an interesting combination. All right, wow. Between brand new planer blades and the miter sled, this thing is sick. It's super smooth. However, I am gonna have to go ahead and do some sanding on it. And I'm actually gonna start pretty aggressive. I'm gonna start with an 80 grit, sand it down. I'll work my way down maybe to like the 240. but I'm going to use the bag on my sander. And the reason I'm going to do that, typically I have it hooked up to my, my vacuum, but I want to grab as much of that sawdust as I can because I do have a couple small gaps that I need to fill. And I really would like to have some dust from the wood itself so that I can put in the holes. So a little bit of glue and dust is going to go a long way. And then once that is done, I'm going to take it to the router. We're going to go ahead and cut a chamfer. So I think I'm going to do a 45-degree chamfer on both sides. And that's just to make picking the cutting board up nice and neat. I think I'm going to leave the front or the side, the front and the back straight. I don't know yet. We'll see what it looks like once I get the chamfer on. And then I'll flip it over and I'm going to do a small round over on the top side. Then after that, it's time to finish this thing. All right, now we got that fully sanded. As you can tell in this video, it's a pretty light wood. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and water pop this thing so that you guys can see what that grain is gonna look like, or basically the color is gonna look like when we actually get finish on it. Look at that. Look at that. That turned golden. I don't even know if the camera is doing it justice right now on how gold this is. It is simply beautiful. Okay. All right, after we pop the grain, we're going to sand it down again, and then we're going to do a mineral oil bath. I think that'll be good for this one. Knowing that this Wenge is really porous, I want to get as much of that mineral in there as possible. All right, now we've got it fully sanded. We've got it water popped. And now, time for a little bath. Now, hopefully you can see this on camera and watch the color change from this light wood to this gold. See that? That's exactly why we used Yellowheart. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let this soak for about 45 minutes. We'll come check on it. If we need to do longer, we will. But already, this thing is looking fantastic. All right, we've got the cutting board out of the mineral bath. We had it soak for about 12 hours, which is plenty of time to get into the grain, fully penetrate all of the wood. And now we're getting close to finishing. So what we've got to do now, got to put some feet on this thing. We're going to put some feet on it, and then we're going to go ahead and put a wax on it, and this yellow brick cutting board is done. Let's go. All right, now we've got our feet we can go ahead and attach to the cutting board. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and align it. So what we're going to do, we've got our square out. We've got an inch marked. What I'm going to do, I'm going to mark an inch over from both the side and the back, and that's going to give me exactly where I would like to drill in. All right, now the key to adding the feet to the freshly dipped wood is we want to hand tighten all of our feet. We don't want to use a drill at this point because all of those fibers are super wet, super moist. So we're just going to add these in a little by little. All right, now we can go ahead and wax our cutting board. For this cutting board, we're gonna use Clark's cutting board. See if it'll focus on that. Now, I've not used this one, but I do like that it's orange and lemon. Ooh, got a little bit of wax there. Actually, I'm gonna start on the back side. We'll start waxing from the back and fully protect this board. All right, we're gonna let that soak in about 20, 30 minutes. We'll come back, we'll kind of buff it off, and this yellow brick cutting board is done. All right, now we have finished the yellow brick cutting board. Man, does this thing look fantastic. I'm not sure the camera does it justice on how gold this Yellowheart actually turned out. Now, most wood, especially light wood, it'll start coloring over age, especially with sun exposure or light exposure, but this thing is already yellow. And I say yellow, I really mean gold. This thing looks awesome. And then when you've got the Wenge runners in between them, just to contrast the brick, man, this cutting board looks great. I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. I really like the chamfered edges on the side, makes it really easy to pick up. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you make a brick cutting board in your near future. Hopefully you have a wicked time doing it. Until next time.